Hello, welcome back. It is week 138 here on Out on That Line. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex, as always. Alex, how you doing this week?
Jeff, I may not be extraordinary, but I am feeling extraordinary. And isn't it just that little change that makes all the difference? Hi, how's it going, everybody? I'm Alex. Welcome to the show. I can feel a good one coming on. How about you, Jeff?
You did it again.
You did it again.
We'll see how much of a good one I feel coming on about this discussion we're going to have today. I think it's going to be interesting. I'll be very interested in what you have to say about it. We're going to be talking about the newest Blackberry Smoke album called Be Right Here. And the more I listen to it, Alex, the more I wish that I was anywhere but right here.
Well, you know what's funny is we had, I would say, somewhat opposite experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It got better for me every subsequent listen. I had to listen to it a shit ton of times to like really kind of let that one marinate. But I did it. I listened to it a bunch and it did get better. But I have some very specific criticisms about it, which we'll get into after a word from our sponsors. Y'all, there's this brand new thing happening. It's called the internet, and Al Gore did it. And boy, oh boy, are you gonna be shocked when you see what's going on there. They got this one site called YouTube, and I heard that if you go to YouTube, knock on the door and ask for Jeeves, he'll show up and he'll tell you that the place to find the most salacious, most exquisite, most cutting edge content on the literal actual planet, including the internet, he would tell you that that address is youtube.com/c/out on that line. Folks, it's, to quote a great man, it's not rocket appliances, okay? This is a very simple thing to do. You like this video, you subscribe to this channel, you turn notifications on so we can do this again sometime, and you leave little nuggets in the comments. We like when you're mean to us, believe it or not. We like when you're nice, but we like when you're mean to us. That's a sign of a secure person. So I don't know. Why don't you come see what all the fuss is about at youtube.com/c/out on that line. Down at the holler, we'd love to see you here sometime, y'all. Come on down.
That was easily by far your best one you've ever done. That was you settled into that one just like a musician can settle into the pocket. That was it was Charlie Watts doesn't get enough credit for what he did for the Rolling Stones, but I'll tell you what, buddy, that was a Charlie Watts kind of performance. That was beautiful.
Well, thank you. They say that they don't build statues to critics, but I'm about to change all of that.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna make enough from this to build our own statues.
What it's going to be constructed out of? What a great question.
Yeah, that's what constitutes a statue? Like, at what point does it stop being a little like weird art piece and become a statue?
Can a little weird art piece be a statue? Can a little thing as big as this Logitech mouse, we are not sponsored, can something like that be a statue? Could this be a statue if it was carved into a little jaunty figure?
Does a statue, it probably can't be functional, right?
A statue can't be functional? I don't know. You bludgeon someone to death with a heavy one.
That's true. The Oscars, is that a statue or a statuette?
It's referred to as a statue.
Okay. Well, I guess you could really just make a statue out of anything then. It's not going to cost us a thing.
That's my favorite Casey Musgraves.
Yeah,
you can make a statue out of anything, child.
She might say something like that on the upcoming album. I'm really looking forward to seeing what old Casey has in store for us with this one, because I don't know quite how I feel about the new single quite yet.
She's off the weed. That's all I needed to hear.
Yeah, that's we'll see that for better or worse. We're gonna see in a couple of weeks here.
We're gonna find out.
Yeah, pre-ordered the album anyway. Gonna have it on vinyl. You gotta have the once you. There's a certain point where it sunk cost
Mhm.
fallacy. I don't believe in it when it comes to vinyl records. So you just keep buying more. Eventually, you're gonna feel like you have enough. Maybe when I'm dead, I suppose.
Well, I decided to hedge my bets in case it's bad, and I pre-ordered Taco Bell for that night. Which, if you really think about it, I pre-ordered diarrhea the next morning.
Hmm. It's
So
well, the more refined of us, we just call it a cleanse.
it's like sometimes you have to burn down a whole forest to have this wonderful, rich soil that something beautiful and wonderful can sprout out of.
Yeah, there's beauty in pain.
And that's me the morning after
Yeah.
a absolute crunch wrap meltdown supreme frenzy.
That should be Taco Bell's slogan is there's beauty in pain.
There's beauty in pain. Subtext, you're gonna shit yourself, but it's gonna taste so good doing it.
The art is in the suffering, folks.
The art is in the suffering. So should we get to our review then?
Yeah, let's see. And certainly, yes, the art was in the suffering on this one. So I will start out and say I am unabashedly a Blackberry Smoke fan.
Amen.
This album did not change that for me. What this album changed for me is that I'm probably not going to go back and listen to this album again anytime soon, if ever. Blackberry Smoke has always been known for just good old kind of southern rockin' party music. Leave a Scar has got to be one of the greatest southern rock songs that has ever existed. Put it right up there with like Molly Hatchet flirting with disaster. Give Me Three Steps by Leonard Skinner. I put it right up there with any of those classics. Some of the stuff the Allman Brothers did, although they were a little more bluesy. Um, they know how to rock and they know how to play some like kind of what tends to be a little bit of pandering kind of music, and they've definitely skewed more towards that lane as they've gone on. They used to also write like rock and love songs like Everybody Knows She's Mine. Great
Oh.
song. Nothing complicated about it whatsoever,
Mm-mm,
just like some
mm-mm.
some kind of once in a while some clever turns of phrase, some like interesting ways to say things, but not Dylan's Masters of War by any means. It's really just perfect southern rockin' music. And then we get Be Right Here. And I feel like this kind of encompassed the worst parts of Blackberry Smoke for me. There's a few songs that are pretty good on this one, but there's so many that are like, you're so lucky you've got all this stuff, basically kind of like looking at other
Yeah.
people and being kind of jealous of what they have and everything. And there's plenty of that had happened in the past when they had a lot less success than they do now. Um, they are kind of like, other than maybe some of the legacy like southern rock bands, they're kind of like one of the preeminent southern rock bands there is these days. Um, Dirty Honey, I think is kind of on the same type of level with them, but there's not a whole lot of choices for that style of music if you want people that are actively still making music and are not like a legacy kind of act. They really just kept harping on the same theme so much throughout the album that I felt like any one of the songs, like he just wrote a big group of the same lyrics and just was like, all right, I'll cut it here and we'll make that a song. I'll cut it here. We'll make that a song. I'll cut it here. We'll make another song. And it just didn't seem to ever kind of get off of that path, which for me, really, I had a hard time getting into this one.
I see. I think you're totally right that it does kind of feel like it was one big long list of lyrics, and he was like, I can kind of chop these up. I don't think it's actually as cynical as that, but it's a great like image to sum up what for me was the issue was it was thematically out of whack. Like this idea of be here now. Whether you're in a good place, whether you're in a bad place, whether you don't know enough yet to know that there's a distinction. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
you're bummed out or you're having a great time. Sometimes you're in between and you're wondering, like, where is this? Like, where am I right now? So be right here. I get that. I understand that, and that's actually kind of a cool thing if you all wanted it to, like, hinge on those themes, but you're right, the perspective of it just, like, doesn't change enough. Like, you've got one where it's this, like, super bitter what's the one? It's "You're So Lucky."
Oh, I just pulled up the
"Be
lyrics
So
for that.
Lucky."
Yeah, that was the one that just I heard that song the first time. At no point in any of my listens through the album did I ever enjoy listening to that song. And for me, like they've never been, I guess, a hugely like linear storytelling type of band. You know,
No.
they have these little like kind of couplets they do within their verses, but it's about the groove. It's about like this rockin' kind of bluesy southern rock. Like and at some points, like some pretty hard charging kind of southern rock. Like Leave a Scar is I'll put that up against any rock song you want. I mean, it is the pure essence. I may not change the world, but I'm going to leave a scar. Like the most rock and roll lyric you've ever heard. Like AC/DC dreams of writing a lyric like that. And that's what they were great at. And they had their songs like One Horse Town that, those are, they dipped their toe in some storytelling and it was good. Those songs were very good. The Whippoorwill was a really good album and it had a lot of that. Um, you know, the one like just before this one, like the last couple albums I felt like have not been that strong from them. There were definitely plenty of things that I found to like on those. I really found it a struggle to find some things that I liked about this one. And some of the lyrics in Be So Lucky, I can see it from a mile away, the light shining on your smiling face. I just make it by the skin of my teeth. Nothing can touch you on that same old leaf. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
If I could ever be as lucky as you, there ain't a single thing I couldn't do. It's a charmed life you're walking through. I should be so lucky. Like, that was the theme. And like you said, the perspective on so much of it. And it was just kind of tired for me
Well, and you
at
have
the
to
end
do
of the day.
something, like, different or interesting with something like Be So Lucky, right? Like, it's so bitter, it's so up its own ass with seething jealousy. You gotta make it like, this guy wants to smash this other guy's head in
Mhm,
with a hammer. Like, why does everything come so easy for you that's so tough for me? I want to wear your face as a mask.
mhm,
And at the end of the song, he does. He kills the guy. I know we said they're not like storytelling oriented, but even alluding to like, your luck ran out today when you met Charlie Star.
mhm.
Um, like
Yeah.
you have to do something interesting with it like that. There was no like the hammer and the nail. Sometimes you're the
Mhm,
hammer, sometimes you're the nail.
mhm.
There's a cynicism to that. Like the lyrics in that is basically like, yeah, I'm always the nail, but
Yeah,
the hell you gonna do? And like pop the top on a beer and get wasted.
yeah.
So like at least that song has a sense of humor to it.
Mhm.
Be So Lucky is just a fucking drag. I wrote here, Black Hole Sun meets Buffalo Springfield and not as interesting as it sounds.
No. And I'm really not a huge fan of Black Hole Sun either. I like a ton of other Soundgarden stuff, but that's not one of them.
Sure.
It's just yeah, it's just kinda drony. Yeah, not for me. But they start off with Dig a Hole. I mean, just a bad song, but you did mention one of the songs that I did enjoy. So Hammer and the Nail, I thought was pretty classic, like Blackberry Smoke. See, that's the kind of thing that could have been on the Leave a Scar live album or on the Whippoorwill, any of those older ones. Also, Don't Mind If I Do was pretty decent because again, it was like them doing what they do best. Those are not songs. I'm not going to say that those lyrics are way more in depth or anything than the other songs are, or like Be So Lucky is, where it's just like, just kind of grating experience. Like none of those lyrics in Don't Mind If I Do are complicated, but they didn't need to be. It's like a party song, it's exactly what they really excel at. And like shaking hands with the Holy Ghost, like it kind of gave me the same sort of feel and sense. So there were definitely like I guess a couple tiny flashes of stuff I liked on this album, but the rest was just ugh.
Dude, it's so fucked up that you say, I'm looking at my notes. You say, don't mind if I do, which, first of all, absolutely they don't take themselves that seriously. That's
Mhm,
literally like the gesture and the noise that Homer Simpson makes before he eats a donut. So, like, that's not trying to be like a sexy cutting edge song. But it's so weird that you say shaking hands with the Holy Ghost because one of my notes says, there's a real missed opportunity in here to reference Shaking Hands with the Holy Ghost because this is
Mhm.
kind of sort of a Xerox.
Mhm.
So it's like, I like the song, don't get me wrong, but you can tell that it's kind of from a template.
Mhm.
Um, and I think between Don't Mind If I Do and Dig a Hole, those two songs for me really exemplify what didn't work about the album for me. And that is that it just feels like it never got out of first gear. None of these songs ever felt like they got out of first gear. Like there is pound for pound, anything on Whippoorwill is gonna just crush. And I don't even
Mhm.
just mean like the volume of the sound itself and like the I mean like the mixing and the mastering on it, it feels huge. So this just feels like the mixing on it was whack. It felt so
Mhm.
compressed and hollow, like it was recorded in a hotel room. So that was bad. That like actively bugged me on a lot of songs. But then on top of that, it's what is just so frustrating about it is like Blackberry Smoke is in there. It's in there. Like you get like 75% in a lot of these songs. And then it just feels like a penguin that's like about to fly. And then it's like, no, and just kind of drops back to the ground in these like dips and these teases, and it stops working at a certain point because they're not doing it on purpose. It's bad
Mhm.
engineering, and it's just this like weird shift in the energy where it's like lyrically they've lost a step. They still know how to write a hook. How good, how successful are some of these hooks?
Mhm. So some of them I think are pretty successful, at least in giving me that Blackberry Smoke kind of feeling. Now, if I start listening to them, kind of stacked up against some of the older songs that I've been listening to for years, like I don't know how well they're going to hold up really. Um, but I feel like they're just really a lot of it felt so forced. Um, and I think part of what made them so great was because none, and again, like they were not probably like the most in-depth lyrics at any point in time, but you felt like you were still there was a lot of authenticity to them. Like you could tell that they probably liked to party as much as they were singing about partying, or at least used to. But the way that Be So Lucky and songs like that on this album, the way they come across is like you are trying to like manufacture is what it feels like. You're trying to manufacture this kind of anger because you think that's going to motivate you enough to write like a good song. And if you're having if life is good to you, just do, because you write songs about life being good as anybody does. So that's what you should stick with. If the whole album is just party jams, great. Like I don't think anybody ever expected Blackberry Smoke to make anything absolutely groundbreaking, like some sort of like masterpiece that we'll talk about for years to come. But what they are is a great southern rock band that writes really fun lyrics that seem to have a really good time doing it. And this album just doesn't feel the same as any of the rest of the things they've done.
Well, that's the thing is when they're on, they're on, and when they're at full strength, look the fuck out. And that is again the main problem on this is it feels like 75%. And I'm not saying effort. It doesn't feel like 75% effort. It just feels like something. It's not Charlie Starr's voice. He has not lost a step
Mm-mm.
vocally. Fantastic. And again, you get these flashes. Like I took all these notes about like Dig a Hole was one where I said it's begging for speed.
Mm-hmm.
The guitar solo in that exemplifies the problem, which is that solo was really trying to open up, but it was so weighed down. And some of these things, like they just can't muster enough energy lyrically, sonically to take it into this next level and make like a memorable rock and roll song. So to that end, one of the songs that I appreciated the most because of that was Azalea, because they stripped it right back. It
Mm-hmm.
was super uncomplicated. It was super basic percussion. It was acoustic guitar and it was Charlie Starr. And the message of it really resonates with me because I've left home a million times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this idea of like, you're torn between everything, losing everything that you know, and going after everything you want, which you don't know what it is. And there's like FOMO that cuts in both directions. And that's just like the worst kind of anxiety. And this song is kind of meant to soothe someone and like reassure them half the learnin's in the leaving. That's the
Mhm.
only thing we fear. Maybe it's not out there. Maybe this leads nowhere, but home will always be right here. And like this is the kind of shit lyrically that I love when they do. It's kind of a woman in the moon type trick. Although that song is vastly superior to this, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
Because again, it gets big and it gets anthemic. So like I can appreciate Azalea as not trying to do that and playing to its strengths because it's not this big over the top emotion. You can't give it that kind of sound. It's more introspective. It's more like reassuring someone who's anxious. So like this was a successful experiment on their part.
Mhm.
They do something like Azalea right. Before I go on, what's your least favorite song on this album? If you
Be
had to
so
pick one.
be so lucky. I mean, and
Okay.
it's not even close. I had a couple that I thought were pretty like it was yesterday was, yeah. What You Know Good was no good.
Ooh,
Um,
dude, that's the one for me. That's the trigger.
yeah, yeah, that's and there was enough, if even those were like average, I'd probably feel a lot differently about this album because I did think Azalea was pretty good, and then the other two that I had mentioned. But those were really the only ones that I could see, like, if I was gonna build a Blackberry Smoke playlist that from this album, those songs, those 3 are really the only ones that would have a chance of getting on there. Everything else was either, like, average or way worse, for me.
Yeah. What you know good, I have written down here. Poor man's last dance with Mary Jane, a grotesque miscalculation.
Mhm,
That song sucks. That song outwardly sucks. Like for an album that got better for me as I listened to it. Um, even though it sounds like all I've done is criticize it and trash it, but it's in the spirit of the thing because we love Blackberry Smoke. So call him like you see him. What you know good is such a bad song. It's just got this weird like heroin nod to it. I don't
mhm.
worry, I don't move in a hurry. It's like you're stuck in a swamp, and it just felt like greasy and sluggish. And I've never had a song feel greasy and sluggish
Yeah,
before.
that's quite a I've never heard one to be described that way before.
But it's how it felt in my brain. Um, so but it's lyrically, it's terrible because it's this whole like, well, shucks, y'all are over here fighting over God knows what, and I'm just over here chilling. Well, then why does the song sound so fucking sinister? And why is it so low energy? It's like an anemic delivery to it. It's just like a
Mhm,
total misfire in all directions. But to me, it is truly the low. It is a marked low point in this album because everything else was fine. It just didn't achieve
mhm,
those upper levels of Blackberry Smoke that we know when they shift into that gear. It's DEFCON 1, baby. And it just never got there. I have so many of these songs that I've written down that says this needs to be 10% faster and 25% louder.
mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so I just felt like they did not play on their strengths at all with this album. I mean, they had a couple songs that feel like accidents when you listen to the rest of the album, to be honest with you. It doesn't feel like those were on purpose. Um, yeah, What You Know Good, like that was the one, now that I'm thinking about it too, that's the one where you just listen to the lyrics and you're like, could he have made them simpler? Like they're so simple they don't make any sense. Like
Yeah,
that's the
truly.
problem I have with that song. So it's sometimes life it strikes me funny. I catch
I,
all of my flies with honey. I don't stand on a pile of money to make myself higher than you.
I wrote down those exact same lyrics, just by the
Like
way.
I just you listen to that and it's like if all you do is listen to it, it probably sounds great because it's like, oh, it rhymes, it's clever, and honey and money, and yeah, those are fun. But lyrics like that, songs like that, that to me is the level of songwriting of like Taylor Swift.
Once again, Jeff, ping,
Yeah.
ping, ping. I have written down, call those Taylor Swift lyrics, parentheses, lazy.
Yeah, just again, it's the like the boy in the green shirt scooping ice cream all over again. It's
Yep.
just
The
like
red scarf. It's your virginity. We get it.
I have this general emotion I need to portray, but I don't want to get too specific about it because I don't really actually feel anything about this situation, so I need to make it up. And that's the thing is if you're not feeling anger, don't try to write angry because it's never going to sound right because nobody ever is that articulate when they're angry. It's anger. You want to get to your point as fast as you can. Like I listen to old Rise Against, like their first couple albums, they have songs like a minute and a half because all they were screaming about was how much they hated somebody. They didn't need a lot of time to do it. And it sounded authentic because you could tell they were really pissed off. I don't believe after seeing the amount of interviews and the amount of things I've seen Charlie Starr do and interact with people that he would ever say these types of things about somebody. So it's just not believable to me when I hear a song like Be So Lucky. It just really, really takes me out of the album when a band that you kind of rely on for like a good, authentic, like Southern rock experience is just delivering something totally different. I am going to say, I don't know if it should be a surprise to people. I'm going to say skip it on this one. I'm not even going to say stream
Wow, a hard skip it. Well, first of all, sorry, I just knocked over my whole Nalgene on my rug.
it.
We're officially DEFCON 1. Well, I can't tank the album. A, I don't want to. I didn't think it was actively bad. I was hypercritical of it because when you love something, that's patriotism, right? When you love something enough to criticize it over and over, no matter how many times it takes. But I truly, after listening to it a bunch, I was like, it's not one I'm going to find myself going back to necessarily. Can I say I'm disappointed? Probably a little, but I'll tell you the one thing that almost saved the entire thing for me. Yeah, got to be a little bit crazy. Little bit crazy. I have coined a phrase here, and I think you'll agree. Vague but vibing. Classic Blackberry Smoke Poon and Moonshine tune, a la Good One Coming On. Am I
Oh man.
wrong?
That's no, you're exactly right.
And I have also 6 Ways to Sunday vibes, pretty apparent.
Mhm.
Also, Good One Coming On reminds me of the lyrics that they sing live. Skinny dipping in the Chattahoochee with my finger in your sister's coochie. That'll get us kicked off of YouTube.
Yeah, I think you're gonna want to put the old bleep on that.
I can
That's
feel a
where you
good
need to.
bleep coming on.
That's where you need to do the War of the Worlds sound. The blah. That's our new bleep sound.
There we go. But yeah, even if just for the fact that I got to make myself laugh by calling it a Poon and Moonshine tune, for that alone, and if you love Blackberry Smoke like we do, you need to stream it. I can't say run out and buy this one. I don't want to say don't look at it. So let's split the difference, shall we?
Yeah, I think that's fair. If you like them, go ahead and give it a listen. You may love it. I don't know. I don't know
It
if you're
wasn't
gonna.
perfect.
Yeah, after you listen to this one, go out and buy the Whippoorwill on vinyl if you can find it, because that's where you're gonna get a much better Blackberry Smoke experience. Just the songs that you named, Six Ways to Sunday, Good One Coming On. I mean, that's you're talking about some true bangers, and I wish there were some of those on this album. But do you have any other thoughts this week, Alex?
I think I'm all out for this week, quite frankly. I think I made a lot of magic at the beginning of this episode. And to ask more of me right now would be downright unreasonable. So, no, I have nothing else to say.
All right. Well, until next time.